we did it to each other, whoever did it to whoever. However, all documents have to prove this, because if you go back into old records, you find where certain families came from, what they own, who they own, and it is documented, but at the magnitude it's not. So basically what you're saying is that you just went around killing people just without not possible.
A lot of it was,
Yeah, because then you're going to say that you own me. Okay, right, that you own me.
right.
Can't be proven. But I've gone and done my records on from kids.
Right.
Can't find these documents. But actually, back in 1982, for some apparent reason, one of the buildings that held all the historical documents is the same kids. Right? So that's where I stopped, and I said, okay, well, is there any other documents to prove this? And they're like, no, well.
So what theory are you proposing that's different?
Not theory, I try not to say theory. I ask the question. Right? I don't theorize, I try not to. I ask the question, where are those documents? What you can do is you can do a freedom of information search for certain documents in the U.S. territory. And you'll come up with certain documents that you will find. It really blows away that all of them coming over from slave ships and whatnot in terms of who wrote certain documents. I'll start with a document on the Constitution of England.
So this is
Who really wrote it? Because if you really read it, it says, we the people of so and so and so, in order to form a better union, form the United States of America. So, who was really speaking there? Then you have the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. I don't know if she's ever read that document. Go read, actually, I think I have it on me, but go read that document, and you will find the names in there who the treaty was made with. You have the treaty with America, the treaty with Morocco, the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, the treaty of back and forth. So the United States, and that, so we have to look at it as well too. When you say the United States, and you say the United States of America, when you hear the President Obama speaking, and he mentioned the people of America, right, do not want war. However, the United States, like, why is there separation? Like, it has to join together. Because it's of something. The United States is of America, so there has to be somewhere. So when we speak of our people, we speak of our people over here in North and South and Central America and the Caribbean, or the Chonan Islands, Atlantic Islands. When we speak of them, what we have to realize is that we were already here. Some Africans came over. If you want to say that, Europeans came over, but we were already here. You just have to go back and trace that. You just have to go back and trace that. Where do we trace it from? That's not up to me, that's up to you. You have to find where your ancestors came from, as opposed to somebody else telling you where your ancestors came from. Just like when you ask the question, my theory, you go back and you find So, not saying, back again, not saying it didn't happen. The magnitude that it happened.
And there were African people here before that. Absolutely. That's right. Yeah.
So that's where we have to go. Not saying that Africa is where Africa is right now or where it's not. We were everywhere before everything happened.
Yes, that's true. I recently learned that. So I recently learned that as well.
Yeah. So if we were everywhere, then we shouldn't pinpoint ourselves in one spot. Because once we do that, we take ourselves out of everything else.
That was national. We also
That's a good point.
Right? So if you said that you're European, right? Someone said, no, you're an African.
Now over here, this is
And you agree with that, it's like, okay, I'm African. So say you have a house in, so you just gave up your birthrights on Europe. Just like someone says that they're American, but you're the real American, but you say, no, I'm African. You just gave up your birthrights over here.
And then the birthright that you give up, the person who you're calling your name they're using your birthright to rule you.
You gave it up.
Because we were the ones that tossed it away. Because somebody said, we're black and proud, and then we ran after that. When that's a fiction. Literally, it's a fiction. It's like.
But technically, we're indigenous to the world.
Right. Yeah. But that's not how we talk, because we think indigenous means Indians.
Yeah, no, I don't think that. I'm originally from Nova Scotia, so we call ourselves indigenous.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, but I've been challenged by Aboriginal people when I've spoken that I'm indigenous. They're like, how can you call yourself indigenous? So yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
People tend to only think that means Aboriginal indigenous, Native indigenous, but no.
Well, if you go to the definition of indigenous, it basically means the first.
Exactly.
Right?
So technically, we're all indigenous.
Right?
Yeah.
So if we're the first, because one thing I always go back to as well too is like, go to the Bible, just for the Bible's sake.
Right.
To Deuteronomy, I believe it's 5 verse 16, where it says, honor thy fathers and thy mothers, right? So that your days will be long upon the earth. Are we doing that? Because we look, for instance, look at your name. Everything's in the name, or your appellation and your title. Is this the name and appellation and title of your forefathers and foremothers?
I don't know. Well, my parents gave us all African names, so I'm a little bit different, but I know a lot of people know their names don't represent them at all.
So that's where that's the mindset that we have to go on, is that if we're supposed to honor our forefathers and foremothers, why aren't we doing it? Right? So that right there, your birthright has been taken away from you. Or you gave it up.
Yeah.
So brainwashing. What's attractive like that?
But then even if we say slavery, even if we blame slavery for everything, right? The root word of slavery is Slav, and that's the European people. So that still has nothing to do with us. If we claim slavery is why we're in the situation that we're in. If we claim slavery is in the situation that we're in, then we're saying to the world that we're Europeans. That's what the world hears.
Yeah.
They're not amongst ourselves. We can say slavery and black and whatever. We know what we're talking about. When you go out there and talk to those people, they don't want to hear nothing about black people and
those are
white
terms,
people and
those
these
are the only
terms.
a lot of us have to refer to,
That's
because
the only thing.
we are in Eurocentric, system. So these are the only terms that we know. But that's it. I get it's important to start trying
deconstructing.
And then it goes
things, do your own research and stuff. So
and just like you're saying, deconstructing, but also reclaiming while we're deconstructing, because it's not a Eurocentric system. Because the Europeans learned from the Moors.
True.
So it's not a Eurocentric system. Everything they know, everything that Europeans know, they got from us.
I learned some of it in the last 6 months, so I can't say I know a lot about it, but I'm starting to learn some of it. Yeah.
Even the devilish stuff that they do, they got from us. Because we're the original. We're the first everything. Right? We're the first evil and we're the first godly.
Yeah, when you're the first people, definitely.
Right?
Both, yeah.
Exactly. Right?
Like you can't throw out the good with the bad.
Yeah.
Right? Which is what we do, when we talk about all the good stuff black people did, but when you talk about all the horrible things that we did, we don't want to bring those things up. Because once we bring those up, now people are looking at us under a microscope. Because more than likely, we did that to them.
Karma comes back at us.
And it's like you're saying, it's about correcting the wrongs that we recognize as a wrong. As soon as we recognize the wrong, we're supposed to correct. If we don't correct, Mother Nature has something for you. And it's not going to be fun either. Because once you have knowledge, you're supposed to move forward from that point. We're not supposed to know, well, you know what, I'm a brown skin, so I'm going to call myself black. When black looks like your top. and there's no register of nothing in our mind that, hold on a second, we're brown people. Different shades of brown from lightest to darkest. And even the darkest person, we can't call him black because he has tinges of purple and blue in his skin, so he's still not black. Right? And not knowing that by identifying ourselves as something that we're not, we class ourselves as undesirable to the world.
And what it does to you spiritually too when you're using terms that
right?
actually don't
Exactly.
define you. What kind of energy are you bringing to yourself?
To yourself,
Yeah.
right? To yourself.
Oh, this is the Moroccan treaty I was.
Oh, okay.
I like your term.
So I'm not American, so.
No.
Oh, Egypt.
Yes, you are. Well, see, been to the mountaintop. So you mentioned the Illuminati earlier, right?
Yeah.
So he's been to the mountaintop. I've seen things that, don't like what I saw, but I saw them. I might not get there with you, but we're gonna get there. So that's what he's telling you. Like, I've been there, I've seen it. I've given up my right to get there with you, but you're gonna get there. Right? So you break it down a little bit more. So basically what he's saying is, I screwed up because you already had something that has been given to you by your creator, by Allah, by God. So I took it away from you because I gave you civil. And if you're not part of it, then you don't have it. That's why we still have these problems that we're having today. Just think about it. Like, we're still having these problems.
Yeah, nothing really changed. It's just like different phases or different events. Not the same
Like,
thing.
we're still having these problems. Like, still getting beat up.
Same shit, just different toilet. That's what I say.
So, we're still getting beat up. Like, why are we still getting beat up? Answer that question. That's all I was asking. Answer the question. Why are we still getting beat up?
I don't know.
Because, I mean, I can tell you, but at the same time, you have to find out why we're still getting beat up.
I always thought because there's powers that are in play that want things this way, right?
Who's creating those powers?
I have no idea. I don't know. I just,
That's the question. Are you giving up your power to create?
to a degree. Yeah, because you have to play into the system, right? Regardless, you're a part of the system, whether you want to be against it or not.
Exactly. So, I mean, these questions are questions that you have to ask yourself all the time, because the fact of the matter is, there's things at play that you're consenting to. I'm consenting to, without even knowing it. Without even knowing that we're consenting to it, you're consenting to it. So, for instance, when these groups got started, you consented to give up your rights because you joined the group. What does that group bring? It brings you civil rights.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it says here that you're not part of that citizenry. You cannot be part of these rights. So when everybody's screaming bloody murder, oh, we need civil rights, we need this, we need that. Okay, well,
First, are you a citizen?
are you part of this country? Yes or no? No. Well, then you don't have it. Get out of here. I mean, it's simple like that, but it's
Like, borders never made sense to me because I always thought you should be able to roam freely this world. A lot of stuff didn't make sense, but what could you do? I don't know.
like you said you're from like over in Somalia.
Somali.
How long have you been over in this territory?
Since I was 2. So since I was 1, I've been learning.
Have you ever been back before?
No, I want to go back sometime this year. Just money-wise. Even like, I don't know. Even when I go there, it's not like I'm going to meet brothers like me.
Yeah.
Like it's backwards there too.
Because I mean, Somalia was coming good and everything. Then they had, I believe it was a civil war. I don't know too much about it. I'm still doing a little bit of studies on it right now.
The Civil War started, but it was like really getting heavy about the time that I was born, which is 1988, and that's when my dad, he was already in the U.S. before. Yeah, my dad was in the U.S. when I was being born. But got really, really bad during the 90s. And I always felt like the whole Civil War had to do with natural resources. Because like, Somalia has oil, gold, all these things. And then the Americans came, and then, you know how the media is. They made us look like savages. And then a few years later, like the whole Rwanda thing was happening, and America didn't intervene, and it was blamed on what happened in Somalia. Like, it gets all confusing, but that's like my basic understanding of it all. Because I always felt like it's the America is in any country, there's a hidden agenda. There's something else that they're really seeking. Is not to save the people. Because if that's the case, then clean up your own house first.
Yes, yes.
Right?
Well, we could go back though, because you said you mentioned the Americans came. Was it the Americans that came?
The U.S. whatever, the army.
Okay, so who owns that army?
Pardon me?
Who owns that army? Like, for instance, what's the title? Like, is it the USA Army, the
I have
US,
no idea.
or the US Navy, the US Air Force?
It was, I think the Air Force has to do with.
Okay, I'm just saying. What I'm going around about is like the Americans. Like, which part of America was in that title? Isn't it the U.S. Army and the U.S. Navy? Not the Americans,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it was like
See, that's the problem right there. Is
generalized.
Generalized.
Yeah, like when you say who's the American president?
Right now,
Yeah,
it's Obama, isn't it?
like, right. But America is from Alaska to Chile, so he doesn't have nothing to do with here. He's not the president of here, right? He's not the president of Brazil. He's not president of Chile, Peru, Mexico, Guyana. He's not president of none of the Caribbean islands. All that's America, right? So if we call him a U.S. president, then we break down the
Exactly what it is.
jurisdiction of what he has presidency over. But when they talk, they always say American president. They never say U.S. president. If they say U.S. president, then the world's going to know that he's a president of a private corporation that came from Europe all the way over here, set up here.
It's true. Never
Right.
thought about it like that.
Same thing with the army. Oh, the Americans came to Iraq and they destroyed everything. No, U.S. came to
Pardon me?
the U.S.
The U.S?
Yeah, the U.S. Army, United States.
Okay.
But there's a difference between the United States and the United States of America.
So USA and the U.S. There's a difference.
Yeah,
U.S. is a private corporation.
Right.
And USA is just
and
America.
USA is the United States of the Americas, from Alaska to Chile. Because all those states at one time were united,
Yeah.
hence United States of America.
Okay.
But they still have jurisdiction of, you said it was from
Alaska to Chile.
Right, Alaska to Chile, right.
Isn't I heard like even Puerto Rico was like from.
But that's going, you said Alaska
No,
is here and Chile
it's
is
part of the U.S.
so
corporation.
south to north.
From south to north.
It's not really
Like
Puerto Rico. It's not
most tip
Puerto Rico. It's Corancana.
south, north
Yeah,
to
I'm pronouncing it wrong.
the
No,
furthest tip south.
no, it's not. Not,
And I know
it's
Chile-
not
Chile is
necessarily you
like on
pronouncing
the-
it wrong. It's just
like right
necessary
here.
in terms of
It's like
what you call
but
it.
there's countries like
Because
besides Chile.
Puerto
Right,
Rico is
yeah,
a
the country
corporation.
beside Chile, around Chile, Paraguay, Bolivia,
Puerto Rico is
whatever,
not.
all that is
It
America's.
Okay.
Like you go do the indigenous names of
But
the Caribbean, Puerto Rico doesn't
if-
exist.
We let them tell the story,
It's
you know what I
Corancana.
mean? All those people are immigrants and they're trying to come over to America
So
to be
it's
free.
like,
or
for
whatever.
instance,
Bless, bless.
where I'm from. I'm from Liam Morgan. It's called St. Christopher St. Kitts right now. But it's Liam Morgan,
That's a.
right? So that's the name before it was given to corporate. That's Columbus name.
So what's Canada?
Well, how far back do you want to go? You want to up Canada? Or lower Canada? That was before
Yeah, the
Canada.
French and the British.
Right? And you go back before that, and it's Kanata.
Yeah, natives.
So, like, these are just names that just came into jurisdiction over time.
Canada.
So, for
Canada,
instance,
yeah.
I'll go to the Constitution for the United States of America. Now, listen to this first sentence. It says, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Could you read it again?
We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
So from my understanding, and you tell me if I'm on the right track, you're saying the U.S. created something for the USA.
I'll say it again. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. So, the question you ask is, did the U.S. form it? Now, if the United States is of America, who came first?
U.S., right? Or, I don't know.
What's your name, first name? What's your last name?
You're Alan.
Correct me if I pronounce it properly. You're Ali?
Duale. Duale.
Dulali. Is Dulali of Shukri or is Shukri of Dulali?
Shukri's up Duale.
So who came first?
U.S.
No?
United States came first.
First name, last name. First name, last name. So Shukri Dulali. So did your family name come first or did your name come first?
Family name came first. And
So,
then I came second.
so Shukri of Dulali. So the United States of America. So he came first.
Yes, I did.
United States of America came first.
So the United States, if they came after America, were they Americans?
Brother Prime said Europeans or something like that.
Americans?
I don't know who the Americans are.
Where are the Americans? You see the trickery there? Because in the beginning it says, we the people of the United States. So we need to form a perfect union. In order to do so, we have to be of America. So then therefore America was already here.
So what did they mean by America? The land itself? Like what are we talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about the land, talking about the people,
Okay.
we're talking about the languages, we're talking about everything that was here before you established the United States.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the question you asked is who came first? So it's just like when you ask, when you go around the world and the fighting that's going on, when you see the different the names that they use, when they say the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Army, U.S. Forces, like they're not saying the USA. They say the Americans are coming.
But you assume that it's
Assumption. Sorry, no assumption.
Yeah.
Let's be specific.
I know, but I can see how people just assume that, right?
They assume
I
that.
assumed it too.
See what I mean? So what happens with assumptions is that we think that's what it is, but it's not.
Just the way we think, it's been tailored, right?
It's like he had mentioned the president.
Sorry, we have to slide down this way.
Sure.
So that Islam. Just usually start off with the Morish American prayer. So it's 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe,
Father of love.
Father of love,
truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector,
my guide, and my salvation. By night, and by day,
through
His holy prophet,
Nobility.
Islam.
This one is number.
Read this quick fast. Carlos A. Cooks. Carlos A. Cooks was born on July 23rd, 1913 in the Dominican Republic and died May 5th, 1966 in Harlem. During his 52 years on this planet, he passed through a phenomenal experience by spending his entire lifetime dedicated to the liberation of Africa, its universal communities, and all its people. It was Carlos Cooks who found the first sole-titled African nationalist organization after the deportation of Marcus Garvey. This fact alone puts him among the ranks of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, the Grand Patriarch of the movement, Honorable Edward Wilmot Blyden. So we'll just pass that around, just so we could see that even the Garveyites knew. They were told what's up. Another picture that I found hiding online. Right? So they know what's going on. Then we tie that in with, you know, Elijah Muhammad with his fez, and Sri Lankans wearing fezzes, and Masons wearing fezzes, because everybody knows what's up with regard to the birthright, the Moorish birthright, right? So today's class is going to deal with just looking at international laws or international resolutions or things that were put out by the international community to let the people know that they have certain obligations and they have certain rights that exist before these proclamations or whatever, right? So first of all, we got All About Law, 5th edition, school textbook, exploring the Canadian legal system. Right, page 22, Canada and international law. Just pull in that. Canada and international law. In recent times, we have been hearing a great deal about globalization. Globalization is the transformation of the world into a global community. And then when you look up globalization in Black's Law, it's not in there. Right? It has occurred because of many events, including the end of the Cold War, 1945 to 1990, between the West and the East, the creation of new trading alliances among the nations, and the electronic revolution. Globalization has had legal consequences as well as social and economic ones. As interactions among nations have become more complex, more disagreements have arisen. International law governs relationships between states. States must follow the rules of international law when they form relationships with each other. In international law, the term state refers to a group of people that, one, is recognized as an independent country, and two, has territory ruled by a sovereign, independent government that can enter into relations with other states. Canada is one of the 191 sovereign states in the world today. International law is based on 3 types of law: customary law, treaty law, and resolutions. Customary law. Over time, states establish practices that they follow consistently and which they assume are obligatory, required. Customary law is formed from those practices. It is not written down in formal codes, but is found in the written judgments in international court cases and in writings of legal experts. Customary law recognizes the following basic principles, which are based on the idea that states have certain rights and obligations. Sovereignty. A nation's absolute right to govern itself is called sovereignty. There is no sovereign world government. Authority to govern rests in each of the 191 independent states that make up the world. Sovereignty implies a state's control over its territory to the exclusion of other states. and the authority to govern that territory and apply the laws there. Under international law, sovereign states have equal status regardless of their military or economic power, which or how much land they occupy, or the size of their population. So for the sovereignty part, and we apply that to ourselves and where we stand, right? With noble duality telling us proclaim our nationality, and then we unify as a group, that becomes a sovereign state.
And then that takes away the people who are ruling us now. In a
Right.
sense, right?
Yeah. It makes their position
Totally.
even more de facto than it is, right? Recognition. New states gain recognition as sovereign nations by being recognized by other countries. However, such recognition is not guaranteed. For example, if Quebec or another part of Canada were to separate from Canada, it would have to convince other countries that it should be granted the status of a sovereign state. Other nations might not support this idea, especially if people in the breakaway territory didn't truly support independence. Consent. States are bound by new international laws only after they freely give their consent. If a nation signed an agreement because it was being threatened with invasion by another state, the international community would not recognize the agreement. Right? So put that in mind with individuals who are pushing the idea of going to the UN. And the UN recognize them. Right?
So read that last part again.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. States are bound by new international laws only after they freely give their consent. If a nation signed an agreement because it was being threatened with invasion by another state, the international community would not recognize the agreement. So the UN is taking the position of being the undercover enforcer for corporate nations that belong to their body.
Exactly.
So that's why they always send in the blue helmet guys when international stuff goes down. They say
It's the same stuff that's going on in Syria right now.
right, exactly, right. So you send in those people, right, and now the world's gonna sit back and watch
Right.
because being threatened with invasion. Because remember, the UN is occupying when they go there too.
That's right.
They might be under the guise of helping people, but really it's occupation. They're doing the groundwork occupation for the democracy to come after and then implement everything that they want to implement.
So yet again, it's another metaphor for the same thing that's going on in America now, right? Which is
Right.
the fact that they are the de facto supposed protectors or the peacekeepers, right?
Right,
They're really just a cover.
just up front. Okay. Good faith. States are expected to conduct their affairs with reasonableness and common sense. They must show good faith in the way they interpret and use international laws. Right? So, right, so good faith. So rights of indigenous people. Every indigenous individual has the right to a nationality. There's not any explanation of what nationality is or, you know, what's indigenous people or whatever like that. It's the shortest of all the articles because it relies on common sense. That if you're claiming to be a nation, then you should have a nationality. And if you don't have a nationality, then you're in violation. Because people are gonna come violate you or declare acts of war against you. And then because we're not who we are, then the whole world sits back and watches the democracy do what they do. right? And this is Islam one. This is 2003 copyright. Okay? 2003 copyright. It's a school book. Freedom of the seas. States cannot claim ownership of any portion of the high seas. States are expected to use the high seas, the airspace above the high seas, and the seabed with due regard for the interests of other states. During wartime, states may interfere with each other's shipping routes as a form of retaliation. Right? And this is how, remember we're talking about international, Admiralty law, right? So what's the talk with Admiralty law? Oh yeah, they took the law of the sea and then they put it on the land and now they're exercising Admiralty law. All right. States cannot claim ownership of any portion of the sea, of the high seas. So if the high seas is the ocean, how are these states, you know, because this is what people are claiming, that the states are taking ownership of the sea, right? And then they're moving it to somewhere else. Right? And then if we go back to good faith, states are expected to conduct their affairs with reasonableness and common sense. So if they're saying that international law, customary law, is based on good faith, which is in harmony with common sense, logically, you can't take the sea and put it on the land and then say that that's admiralty. That it's fraud automatically. But if we, you know, it's like Nobility said that, you know, the Moors were the navigators of the 7 seas. So we were the real admirals. And if anybody's going to be taking sea and putting it on land, it has to be the Moors to do it because we're the only ones that have jurisdiction over the high seas. That's why Europeans needed passports to cross the Mediterranean. That's why the Navy talks about from the halls of Montezuma to Tripoli. Right. International responsibility. A state that does not meet an international obligation has committed a wrongful act. A state that does not meet an international obligation has committed a wrongful act. It may face criminal penalties and or the duty to compensate the wrong party. Example of wrongful acts include unfair aggression against another state or causing an environmental catastrophe inside another state's borders. A state that does not meet an international obligation has committed a wrongful act. So if the international community came up with the rights of indigenous people, and then we go to get mail from the post office and we give our nationality card, and they say, oh, we don't want to recognize that because that's not government ID, then they just committed a wrongful act. Because they should be recognizing international documents and international protocol. They should be doing that. Whether they do that or not is, we already know that's not their intention. Right? But with the activity of Moors, with Moors stepping up doing what they're supposed to do, those things will stop immediately. Like as soon as we start, even when word now is that when you go to court now, they have everybody who has whatever tickets, Go outside, see the prosecutor.
So basically, maybe into an administrative situation.
Because that's what
That's what it's been from the
it's been
beginning.
from the jump. Right? But because we have the knowledge of it being that, once we talk about it, now they have to change whatever they do because we're international. We're a state. We're a nation state. Within a state. It might be corporate, but we're still a nation state within this corporate state. Which means that we're not within it. We actually supersede it. We have supreme authority over the corporate state. That we can tell them certain things and they should do it. Just like how all those proclamations came out. Right? Because those proclamations came out of double activity. Those proclamations came out of Great Seal Moor Science Temple, sending out proclamations to the international community on behalf of the Moors, right? And then Morish American national government, divine ministers, sending requests to those people that you need to recognize Noble Ali's birthday and whatever because, you know, you've been here and you just have to do that. And then all those proclamations came out and there's no talking about it because that's international law, right? That's not domestic law. It's domestic to Negro, black, colored people because they think that it has nothing to do with anything, right? But the reality of it is that it's international, right? Self-defense. The Charter of the United Nations declares that the threat or use of force against other states is unlawful. But why would the Charter of the United Nations declare that it's a threat to use force against other states, right? And it's unlawful to do that, but then there's people in the UN, the members of the UN, making war with other people. When it's in the Charter that they agreed to that they can't do that, right? Due to that same corporate activity that all these jurisdictions that call themselves government are really domestic and they're not international in their character. So they have an obligation to recognize they have an obligation to uphold the principles that the international community puts out through the UN. But everybody also knows that UN is a private corporation owned by the IMF. So do we really, we don't really have to listen to you guys, really. You could send in the blue helmet guys, doesn't matter. We're all crew. So make it look good, make it look like something's being done. But look where we are right now. Right? Humanitarianism. Humanitarianism is respect for the interests of humankind. Examples of humanitarianism include providing famine relief to developing countries or disaster relief to countries that have experienced a natural disaster. Is humanitarianism coming with a truck of grain and just throwing the bales of grain just out to people out there starving or whatever? Right? That's what UN does. Disaster relief. Katrina, was that humanitarianism? They got guns on people, telling them that they can't leave this flooded area to go over there where there's land. That if you cross this bridge, we're going to shoot you. But they're pushing it under the guise of that.
I mean, if you look at it, as you mentioned, they just throw grain out. Isn't that what they do to cattle when cattle's on a farm?
Oh, yeah, that too.
Just throw the grain out.
Just throw the grain out. Just throw the food in the trough and let them fight.
You get it, you get it.
If you don't get it, then come back tomorrow. Feeding time is 4 o'clock again.
So, in other words, it's like just throw the grain out to the property
Yeah,
that you own, more or less.
the cattle,
Yeah.
right? So remember we were talking about international law is based on 3 types of law. Customary law. So everything we just did was customary law. Next, treaty law. Treaty law. International treaties are another part of international law. These are binding written agreements freely entered into by states that spell out their rights and obligations to each other. Bilateral treaties are treaties made between 2 states. Multilateral treaties involve 3 or more states.
I didn't say it for odds, I just...
5 steps in the treaty making process. 1. Negotiate the precise content and wording of the treaty. 2. Formally sign the treaty. This means that the state leaders who signed the treaty support it completely. 3. Ratify or approve the treaty. This step commits all the states to follow the treaty. 4. Let the treaty come into force. This happens when a specified number of states ratifies the treaty. 5. Implement and enforce the treaty. These measures ensure that everyone complies with the terms of the treaty. Special classes of international treaties include charters, treaties that establish international organizations, right? Once again,
You know the charter?
yeah, charter and international law. It's the goal without it. So international law,
Don't worry about
the law which regulates the intercourse of nations. The law of nations. The customary law which determines the rights and regulates the intercourse of independent states in peace and war. And charter, an instrument emanating from the sovereign power in the nature of a grant, either to the whole nation or to a class or portion of the people or to a colony or dependency, and assuring to them certain rights, liberties, or powers. Such was the Great Charter or Magna Carta, and such also were the charters granted to certain English colonies in America. A charter differs from a constitution in that the former is granted by the sovereign, while the latter is established by the people themselves. A city's organic law, an act of a legislature creating a corporation, or creating and defining the franchise of a corporation. Also, a corporation's constitution or organic law. That is to say, the articles of incorporation taken in connection with the law under which the corporation was organized. The authority by virtue of which an organized body acts. A contract between the state and the corporation, between the corporation and the stockholders, and between the stockholders and the state. Right, and then we read charter, and then we show the charter, which was given by a sovereign, right, in order for the people's rights, liberties, etc. to be exercised as an act of a legislator creating a corporation, or creating and defining the franchise of a corporation. Also, a corporation's constitution or organic law. That is to say, the articles of incorporation taken in connection with the law under which the corporation was organized. the authority by virtue of which an organized body acts. A contract between the state and the corporation, right? So the contract between the state and the corporation. So the corporation is the Moorish Science Temple of America, right? The state is the body of Moors. Between the corporation and the stockholders, right? So the corporation and the stockholders, all the members who have a vested interest in this corporation, because they all pay their dues, they all have a nationality card, wear fezzes, acknowledge no bourgeoisie as the prophet or whatever, follow the protocol, right? And between the stockholders and the state, right, comes back to the stockholders being members, and because the stockholders are members, they have a vested interest in the state, which is really their nation, right? And also, keep in mind with the state is that, like Brother Taj talks about, they just took the E off of estate to create the states. And then if we're talking about estate, then these stockholders now, if we say stockholders and state, once we change state to estate, the stockholders now become beneficiaries of the estate, which was put in a trust for everybody to have access to once they're down with the charter, right? And following the greeting to the Home Office. Greeting the Home Office. By virtue and authority vested in the Most High Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish Science Temple of America by a lawfully granted charter of the state of Illinois, hath granted this charter to this branch of the Moorish Science Temple of America in the county of Ontario, state of Canada, to be styled and known as Moorish Science Temple number 5, invested with all powers and privileges of a subordinate temple within the jurisdiction of the said Home Office. Jurisdiction, hear ye. Jurisdiction aforesaid by virtue of whose authority it exists, while acting in conformity with the laws, rules, and regulations of the home temple and the subordinate temple aforesaid, being duly and lawfully organized, constituted, and established, is hereby authorized and empowered to initiate and confer the degrees of the said temple in accordance with the established forms and usages upon all persons as are duly and lawfully qualified, to promote and practice teachings of all the true and divine prophets, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, Confucius, etc. The officers and members who benefit under this charter do hereby pledge themselves to act at all times in obedience to the commands and edicts of the illustrious Noble Drew Ali, the founder and head of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Home Office can at any time suspend, revoke, or take away this charter or warrant of authority if in the judgment of our Grand Ruler and Prophet Noble Drew Ali, said subordinate temple has violated any of the principles or rules of the Moorish Science Temple of America. In testimony whereof I have hereunto subscribed my name and affixed the seal of the said Moorish Science Temple of America, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Love. So just like what we've been doing, right? Issuing nationality cards, issuing Circle 7, 101 questionnaire, having law dictionaries and books and whatever here, having a flag in the window that everybody can see so they know that this is not some social organization, right? Because once you see a flag, you're gonna know whether that's some domestic, whether it's just an organization, or whether this is national. And everybody knows that flag right there. And there's no questions about where it's from and what does it mean or whatever. Everybody knows that that's the flag, right? So treaty law. special classes of international treaties include charters, right? So we have that. Conventions, right? So a convention is an international treaty matter. And there's been conventions in quote-unquote the Morish Temple of America. Got a picture of somewhere? I think it might be over there. Yeah. All right. Conventions, treaties that are negotiated by many countries to which all countries of the world may become partners. Protocols, treaties that add to earlier treaties on the same topic. In 2001, representatives from 178 states, including Canada, formally adopted the 1997 Kyoto Protocol on Global Warming. The Kyoto Protocol called for industrialized nations to reduce emissions of greenhouse gases, linked to global warming to 5% below 1990 levels. The Kyoto Agreement will come into force once 55 countries, including those nations responsible for most of the greenhouse emissions, have ratified the agreement. Right? So now, this is the fine line of international law that when we look at this agreement, Kyoto Agreement, 55 countries, the agreement will come into force when 55 countries bring it into force. But those 55 countries also include the ones that they even wrote the treaty about. And they're not having that. Just like certain people weren't having proclaiming their nationality. And it wasn't until Barack Obama and Stephen Harper that those documents got signed. When they've been around for years, sitting there and nobody was going by them. Right? Treaties are the main method for addressing international problems and conflicts. They deal with a wide range of matters, including the following. Territory. The state has a fundamental interest in the rules that govern its right to define its territory and its international borders, including territorial limits off seacoasts. Although almost all of the world's landmass is now owned by individual states, right? This is 2003, right? 2003 high school book, they're telling you. Although almost all the world's landmass is now owned by individual states, international treaties ban further seizure of territory in 3 areas: the world's oceans, Antarctica, and outer space. Right? Right? So those are the territories, right, that are banned. Nobody can try to go claim cheat or nothing. World oceans, Antarctica, and outer space. Right?
But then again, it likens to the fact that they're making a law that you can't touch this property. Who's given them the privilege or the authorization to say you can't touch the space, you can't touch the oceans, you can't touch Antarctica.
Right.
It's the same thing. Like you need permission to do it.
Right. Diplomatic law and immunity. States carry in their relations through diplomats and envoys. These representatives have certain privileges and immunities. In other words, they have more leeway in their behavior than average citizens and may not suffer the same penalties for breaking the law. These privileges and immunities are now codified in the 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Right? States carry on their relations through diplomats and envoys. These representatives have certain privileges and immunities. In other words, they have more leeway in their behavior than average citizens. So average citizen is going to go show a license when IDs ask for it. And then we're going to show nationality card, which gives us diplomatic immunity. Because the time is going to come when we give them nationality card and they're going to be running. You know what I mean? Like we have to, you know, suffer a little, but the objective is proving to them that we don't have, that they don't have jurisdiction. Right? Just like the outer space and whatever they can't claim, well, they can't claim us either. Right? The protection of nationals abroad. Foreign nationals, people traveling to other nations, are entitled to the protection of life, liberty, and property. Right? Not life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and property. However, international law recognizes the right of states to seize or nationalize private property in the national interest, provided the state offers prompt compensation. International law recognizes the right of states to seize or nationalize private property. Right? So as a nation state, right? Moorish dominion, Moorish empire, Moorish jurisdiction, whatever. International law recognizes our right as a state to seize, with the black guy over there, grab him, right? To seize and nationalize private property. Negro black people, Negro black colored people are private property. So we have a right, as far as international law is concerned, to seize and nationalize those private property. And that's where it comes into when we look up nationality and apply into things. Talking about corporate people.
Chattels, man.
Chattel. You have a chattel has a right to be free too. Right? Extradition and asylum. States have made extradition treaties with each other. These treaties let nations bring home people who are trying to escape justice. To extradite someone is to return that person to his or her country to face the penalties there. In the absence of a treaty, to the contrary, a state may grant asylum or a safe place in its own territory to any individual. So that's like Snowden. Right? Certain people want to bring him back. Right? Yo. What you said, bro? Please, sir. States have made extradition treaties with each other. These treaties let nations bring home people who are trying to escape justice. To extradite someone is to return that person to his or her country to face the penalties there. In the absence of a treaty to the contrary, a state may grant asylum or safe place in its own territory to any individual. International trade. Globalization has encouraged states to create several new international trade agreements, including the North American Free Trade Agreement. Canada and the United States and Mexico formed this agreement in 1994 with the goal of gradually eliminating tariffs on goods and services among the three countries. Arms control. During the Cold War, fear of global catastrophe prompted states to create treaties aimed at preventing nuclear war. Some of these treaties banned the testing of nuclear weapons in the atmosphere, preventing the spread of nuclear weapons and reducing the number of nuclear warheads and missiles held by the major nuclear powers. In the case of both customary laws and treaties, sovereign states can agree among themselves to new international laws or change existing international laws as they see fit. Resolutions. In international law, resolutions are considered soft law. So anytime we see resolutions, we could Just disregard it altogether. Because they do not have the force of customary law or treaties. They are not considered binding on countries, even on those that vote for them. Despite these disadvantages, resolutions serve a purpose. They can be adopted fairly quickly and are often used to focus international attention on an issue or situation that demands quick action. Resolutions can also form the basis for later negotiations on treaties. So that's why the Moors say that we could use Resolution 75 from the Moors that were exercising nationality and birthrights in Philly. And they put out a resolution that, you know, understand there are these people called L's and B's and they have right to do whatever, same thing that they said in the proclamations. That it's acknowledged that we can say that we're L and B. But it's, you know, but that's just soft law. That's not in the record. That's just there for us to know that those rights exist for us to do these things, if we choose to. Because if we choose to be a slave, you can do that too. Because everything's voluntary. Everything's based on consent. Right? Any questions? Comments? Was it good? Alright, so international law. Letter from George Washington to Sultan Mohammed ibn Abdullah, City of New York, December 1st, 1789. Since the date of the letter, which the late Congress by their President addressed to your Imperial Majesty, the United States of America have thought proper to change their government and institute a new one agreeable to the Constitution, of which I have the honor herewith to enclose a copy. The time necessarily employed in the arduous task will apologize and account for your Majesty's not having received those regularly advised marks of attention from the United States, which the friendship and magnanimity of your conduct toward them offered reason to expect. The United States having unanimously appointed me to supreme executive authority in this nation, your Majesty's letter of August 17, 1788, which by reason of the dissolution of the late government remained unanswered, has been delivered to me. I have also received the letters which your Majesty has been so kind to write in favor of the United States to the Bashars of Tunis and Tripoli, and I present to you the sincere acknowledgments and thanks of the United States for this important mark of your friendship for them. We greatly regret the hostile disposition of those regencies toward this nation, who have never injured them. It is not to be removed on terms of our power to comply with. Within our territories, there are no mines, whether of gold or silver, and this young nation, just recovering from the waste and desolation of a long war, have not as yet had time to acquire riches by agriculture and commerce. But our soil is bountiful and our people industrious, and we have reason to flatter ourselves that we shall gradually become useful to our friends. The encouragement which your Majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions. Right? Stop there for a second.
Stop there.
Right? The encouragement which your Majesty, who is Sultan Mohammed ibn Abdullah, the Sultan of Morocco in 1789, has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions. If the Sultan is of Morocco, and they say in North Africa, how is he having jurisdiction over the Americas? Right? Because by them saying commerce with your dominions, they're telling, or George Washington saying that over here is his jurisdiction as well. Right?
Is that like how Saudi Arabia has it now? because you know Saudi Arabia and a couple other Middle Eastern countries, they have a lot of, I'll say, investments in America
Right.
now.
Yeah.
And even the embassies, when you go there, the embassies of Saudi Arabia is actually the biggest embassy and more protected than the White House.
Right. So that's a lot of that is due to.
Wow, is that does that tie into today? Like that would be the back in the daytime with Morocco. They're doing the same thing that Saudi Arabia is doing now.
Yeah, they're doing this. Yeah, basically. But the difference is that those people that support the United States today, they're supporting them because they're really buying that corporation.
Right.
So they're putting money into a corporation that's dissolved, that they know that they can use that corporation as a second place of refuge. If stuff
That as well, but also Saudi Arabia, I believe a lot of the what's the word for the rich guys? The sheiks.
Yeah,
A lot of the guys there. They
Yeah.
actually own a lot of trades, or they have shares. Sorry. In a lot of the major corporations in
Right.
America that we assume
are American corporate. Right. It's just like India and China buying Land Rover and Volvo and all those.
So do you think that this maybe is kind of like this modern day way of them owning America as well? It's the same thing as Morocco did back in the day.
Not the same thing, because this actually was Morocco. Like the land itself here was under the jurisdiction of the Emperor of Morocco. This actually was his country.
Oh, kind of like
this actually was his land.
We're up there under the jurisdiction.
Yeah, these are corporate things, right? Like,
right.
Arabia has corporate interests in the corporation in America over here. But this isn't their land. This actually was his land.
So now this is the Queen's land.
No.
That's how it's pushed, that it's the Queen's land.
Yeah.
But it can't really be the Queen's land because she's not here.
No,
Like, she
but
would have to
money
be
and
here.
everything is under the Queen.
Under the Queen, yeah.
Canada and the United
Right.
States, those are jurisdictions that belong to the Queen.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not the land. The jurisdiction belongs to the Queen.
Jurisdiction.
Not the actual physical landmass.
So then there's some of the jurisdictions that are applied in the UK. Do they apply here? Like, is there laws in the UK that would still apply to anything?
Laws like they own.
Things that would help.
Like British laws, you mean?
Yeah.
Maritime.
Because you know how
Like,
laws of just like independence and things like
Right.
that nature, that for like the natives, and you know,
Well,
because this is along the same lines as like the natives have done and somewhat accomplished, but they now are without any help from the government.
right, and the reason why they don't have help is because they're calling themselves Indians,
Right. So now,
which violates all the treaties,
yeah.
because the treaties have to be done with nations of people that are tied to a landmass.
Okay.
But if you have somebody saying that they're white and then they're making treaty with Indians in Canada, for lack of a better term, but this isn't India, and those people who claim to be white could only do treaties with other people that make that claim of being white. You know, so like with Saudis, the Saudis are that's a corporate construct, so they can go after the corporate construct called the U.S. But they're not. It's not the land that they're going after. They're just going after that business
Right.
that these people have been using to go around the world and say, yeah, you know, we got political power or whatever, and then everybody realizes that, hold on a second, in 1779, you guys were begging the same people over here for acknowledgement,
to build the land,
to build the land or whatever,
develop, yeah.
right? Which means that they're not the authority here.
Okay.
They can act like the authority, you know, they have the U.S. Army and whatever, and it looks good, but
You really answer to
they answer to other people. And then those other people that they answer to are really us. But just like the Indians, we don't call ourselves Moroccans anymore.
Correct.
We call ourselves black, Negro, colored, so all that stuff is out the window. That's why they can get away with doing everything that they do. Because the treaty was really made with Morocco, and the jurisdiction above Mexico is pretty much Morocco. not Canada and U.S.
Okay. Sorry. See the part where you said every time when it says late government, I think it's called?
Yeah. Since the date of the letter with the late Congress, by their President addressing to your Imperial Majesty, the United States of America have thought proper to change their government and institute a new one agreeable to the Constitution, of which I have the honor herewith to enclose a copy.
Yeah.
That part?
Or yeah, and then there might be something before
The
that.
secondary part?
Where he says something, where he mentioned it. It might have been early, like when he first started.
Yeah, that was the first part where it says late.
Oh, okay.
In
It
the
says
beginning.
late.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when he's saying late government, he's talking about the previous government from before that was running the place.
Right. The Continental Congress.
With like
With all the presidents before
John Hanson
and all those people. Right? So the late Congress.
So this is after. So this is the, what do you call them? What would they call
Plenipotentiaries, yeah.
Plenipotentiaries?
Yeah.
Like, so he's one of them.
Yeah.
Or he's the first one.
Check that in there.
And it was after when they occupied, when they finally colonized or whatever, or took over, and now they're going back to Morocco to ask permission to continue to occupy. Is this what that letter is about, or that part of it?
To a degree, because it's like you need permission from the sovereign in order to exercise in sovereign land. So this was just their request to the sovereign, just like what we do, judicial proclamation. Yeah, we're just letting you guys know that you guys are running a fraud, and we have the authority here, and we're just putting you guys on notice. This was their notice, right, to Morocco. Let them know, yeah, we're here. We have land and all that stuff. We haven't built up ourselves yet. That's why we're coming to you, because we know that this is your dominions. And since this is your dominions, you could talk on our behalf to let other nations say, oh, okay, yeah, we could do business with those guys because the Moroccan emperor, if he recognizes them, then you know what I mean?
Just whoever has dominion over it is the most powerful.
Is the powerful, right? Is the one that has the say.
Yeah.
But what the part that we have to get to is that when they say with the Emperor of Morocco, they're talking about people who look like us, not who we see in Saudi Arabia today. You know what I mean? We're talking about people with afros and stuff like that. That had dominions over here, as well as on that side, they also had dominion over here.
Does any of this thing tie into like immigration laws now, in terms of immigration is basically saying who's a citizen of what country, things of that nature?
Yeah.
Is there anything that ties into those type of things?
Not really, because they're dealing with Canada now. People who are coming in, right? They're dealing with a state that's occupying the land that's not really part of the land, So if they're coming in from, let's say, Ethiopia, which is the same thing, it's de facto too, because the land is not called Ethiopia. They're coming to immigrate to Canada, they're immigrating to Canada. And
So
that's still a state on the land. They still have to go through the corporate.
Whatever bylaws and deals.
Exactly.
They're just getting
They're opposed to coming to this land saying, I'm coming to visit the Morish Americans.
Right.
Or the Washington. But that's what we have to do, what we're doing now to establish that. So people can immigrate to this land and be part of the actual land, not just the state operating on the land.
And there's no way in order to create a new state of like
a new Moorish thing. A new jurisdiction?
It's already there.
It's already there.
So there's no way that immigration could help, just say, you can't bring us, we're already in the country. But you know what I'm saying? But to say, yo, here's a new thing, you guys are now this. instead of you having a Canadian birth certificate or
Right.
whatever it may be.
No, that comes to us saying what we are.
Yes, but
And
there's
then-
no way
and
to
then
implement
accept
it
it.
into the immigration for them to say, oh, well, okay, now you are now
They're
recognized.
not, you know what?
No,
They're not
Canada
gonna,
can-
they're not gonna
Canada can do
accept that because then that comes with them
Give it up.
too much, like they have to now give too much leeway, and now that opens like a floodgate
Yeah.
for other people to do the same now
I was
because
just thinking maybe there might be like little,
they lose too much.
Loopholes.
Remember, it's about money, it's about business. So
The way I explain it is basically, we're the owners of the house, they're the tenants. We're then going to them, you would be going to the tenant, ask the tenant if he'll give you rights.
He'll give you
Give
something.
you back his
Acknowledge,
But,
yeah.
yeah, but it's your house.
Yeah,
So
they'll
you're
give
going
you a
back.
room in your own
Yeah,
house.
and then so you going to them would be like going to the tenant
Right.
and saying, do you mind if I do you mind if I come
Why I'm
back?
asking, because you know we have friends now that's the Minister of Immigration of Canada,
Yeah,
or Ontario. There's different things,
But
so
the other-
like, people that are like us, like, you know,
yeah. It's just
just to
because-
even find out information of little info.
just stuff.
hidden
Yeah,
info that
because
they don't
they're
want
in
you to
there.
know,
Yeah.
that you could probably do,
For
but
sure.
they're not gonna tell you because
For
it was
sure.
already masked
Yeah.
100 years
Yeah,
ago,
right,
200 years
I hear
ago.
what you're saying, man.
Sure.
Canada can't do it, but they don't need to do it. Because this land is supposed to be a sovereign territory occupied by many different jurisdictions in the
Right.
first place.
'Cause this
We
is
gave
supposed
ours
to be
away.
free land.
Yeah,
Right.
we gave ours away.
Yeah.
For the civil rights movement, we gave ours away.
And what I realize too, all of this is contract, right? We agree to it.
Right.
Once we agree to it, that's what gives it the law.
Right.
That's why when we say we're this name or that name, we put ourselves in their jurisdiction, and then even though it's not lawful or even legally right, once we do that, we've accepted their contract. And
Okay.
then they're running the show, right? So it's all about breaking that contract, from what I understand.
But why I say that, just getting back to the natives, because you know the natives is the only tribal people that actually have their own lands, their own communities, schools, policing, things of that nature, that's in the Canadian.
But even that was,
Don't.
but even that was a facade too, which is
Yeah.
fake, right? What they
The
did was,
Queen owns the reserves.
that's right. So what they did was they put another sub-tenant in there. That's what they did by making it native. You then are agreeing to be called something else again. And then what they said to quiet you, so you wouldn't go back and say that's my land.
Tax exempt.
Yeah. No, what they did. No. What they did is they gave you a caddy. They gave you a Cadillac and just said okay, and you said okay, that's fine. All right, well, we'll give the
Cadillac
Chiefs
was
a
the
Cadillac.
man.
Yeah, they gave the Chiefs the Cadillac.
Exactly.
Mercedes actually.
But that's what the fuck it was.
Well, I ask because a perfect example is like in
Other
Calgary
instruments.
during the flood, right?
favor.
In Calgary during the flood.
Right.
So everywhere else had relief funds.
Yeah.
And the people deployed to help them in the flooding. All the homes, all the rich people, all over Calgary, Alberta, wherever it was happening. And the only people that didn't have that, and I remember they showed it briefly, was the natives on
Right.
their reserves.
Yeah.
It was still underwater.
Right.
And they were like, how come nobody's coming to help
Yeah.
us? Right? It's
Yeah.
because that they have their own thing. So they kind of separated themselves from the government.
But you see, yeah,
in that situation, what really supposed to happen if you're the quote-unquote native of the land is that the servant is supposed to come and relieve you. Yeah, so like the quote-unquote government is supposed to come and help them and restore their land and help them. and
But in essence, what they did is they signed away that right and became Indian, which is what we all are. We've become corporate slaves because it's still
Right.
all about business.
And that's the same thing you think for the communities in Nova Scotia.
100%. Oh yeah.
You know which communities I'm talking about that they don't they keep themselves.
Africville, all that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
You want me to plenipotentiary? Plenipotentiary. One who has full power to do a thing. A person fully commissioned to act for another. A term applied in international law to ministers and envoys of the second rank of public ministers.
Right?
Again, plenipotentiary. One who has full power to do a thing. A person fully commissioned to act for another. A term applied in international law to ministers and envoys of the second rank of public ministers.
Right, so this is where, what he was saying in the letter, that he was appointed. Right? So then if he was appointed, then that means that he wasn't elected. And if he wasn't elected, then there's no way that he's president. Because presidents get elected. And then secondly, at the beginning when he said with the late Congress, by their president, He's admitting that there was a president before him.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be the first.
And he's supposed to be the first one. But then they have this letter up there that, nobody doesn't bring up, nobody reads or whatever.
Well, you know what that must mean, though? I think what I'm sensing from that, it means to me, in a sense, that there must have been a breakdown somewhere.
Yeah,
right? Because what he's trying to say is like, it's like the late Martin Luther King. That means that he's gone.
Right.
They're gone.
Right.
So
They're
that's
out
what
of power.
And what I think because we talked about this before, I think what happened was what they said was basically there was so much infighting amongst us that I think it was some Ben Bey gave the power to someone, right, to then try and save the government, right? That's
and Ben Bey is Benjamin Banneker.
Yeah.
Right. Who was the one that made Washington and all these people plenipotentiaries.
He appointed
them to save us,
right? Because he was part of that late Congress.
That's right.
Right. And then that's why they honor him as the Benjamin Banneker, the mathematical genius that created the almanac, and he did all these things.
But they probably were forced to appoint it to the European.
Right, yeah, because there was nobody else to really put the power to. But there's infighting amongst us.
Right.
Why am I going to go give it to this guy when he might take my head tomorrow?
Well, I think that what I remember, the other part to that is we were on the way out, in a sense, right? So what he did was, it was his last thing to sort of save, I think.
Last step
to save the government or something like that.
Right. And then with regard to with Calgary, right? In 1777, so remember this is 1789, right? So in 1777, in Articles of Confederation, Article 11 of the Articles of Confederation, Canada, acceding to this confederation and adjoining in the measures of the United States, shall be admitted into and entitled to all the advantages of this union, but no other colony shall be admitted into the same unless such admission be agreed by the 9 states. So in 1777, they're talking about Canada agreeing to everything in the Union of the United States. But then Garner or whatever, they're telling us about 1867, Canada's founded.
Okay.
And see, that's
right, that's years difference.
100 years almost.
And basically
that's the whole thing with creating the corporate state, and then you have the land, and then
But then the whole issue behind all of this too is that they've basically just been miseducated.
Those dates are accurate, but it's just about what they're talking about.
Right.
Like, it's all.
They changed it all up.
Like when they're saying, Canada established whatever, 18 whatever, like the corporation. But the government and the land people, and the government that was running before that was already established.
But it's probably more like how they have Mennonites and other colonies. So speaking of that,
sovereign,
right? Because like when we're out in Kitchener, Waterloo, different places, they have their own towns,
right?
Their own. I don't even think that police or government
go there or whatever. Yeah,
you're right, because they have their own governed communities.
And that's because
And how do they do that? Like what rights do they have?
Religion. It's religion. Yeah, they're using the religious rights.
Mennonites religion. Because they still do horse and carriage when you go up. You still see them literally.
It's so natural. Body politics.
Right.
It's theocratic, so they could use that.
And then you know what they have too? They have numbers. They have people who say, you know what? Okay, I believe in this, and they're going with it, and they're wholehearted with it, and they're gone.
Or probably because they've been here so long, they just kept in stone what they knew from before when Canada turned into the corporation and all of that. They wanted to remain true to whatever.
They honor their ancestors. We have that exact.
That's a perfect way of saying it.
Our people are numb. That's why we can't gravitate to this type of thing.
And they didn't give up their
They give up their sovereignty.
Right.
They give up their sovereignty.
Sovereignty means what? Their own community.
Like their own jurisdiction.
Their ability to govern themselves.
Their own autonomy, basically.
Yeah, their birthright too. Yeah. Like what their ancestors did or left for them.
Because remember
they didn't abandon that.
Yeah, the same. Because remember, the Mennonites are the same Europeans who got permission from the Sultan to be over here. right?
They're probably
So-
some of the first Canadians. or
yeah, so
North
they're
Americans.
exercising, they're exercising as, well, they're not putting it out there like this, but they're exercising like, well, yo, we're more subjects. We're subjects of the Emperor of Morocco, so we have the privileges of a Moroccan, and we can make our own stuff, have horse and carriage. We have our own way that we dress.
So
we
is there-
have our own religion.
And the way
etc.
they're approaching it is kind of like the way it's supposed to be, because they're not trying to say the whole land is ours. Okay, we're gonna do our thing right
in this
here.
little portion.
So is it worth researching what they've done and how they maintain what they have?
You can do it for your own knowledge. We have them be doing the same thing for a long time.
It's like
And the difference is that this is, all of this land is ours. They've got a section of it, so they've
Right.
kept it like.
But I mean in steps of
no, but what they
Getting to
like
a-
what they did was only gonna work for them, because I guarantee if it were for us, it would have already been, we'd already done it, or that model would have already been there for us to do, and we would already be doing it.
I think it's consistency and persistence
It's that
in
too,
order to
but-
get to that goal.
Right,
People
right.
probably
Veil
just stop because they got discouraged.
Right.
That too, but the veil is so deep for us, especially because there's so much of us, and for us to awaken and understand like what we have or what was ours is too damaging to what they're doing right now. Or to
Yeah,
what
they
can
don't
work
want
with.
that for sure.
So there's not. There's not like the layers that we're gonna have to go through to even to get to something like that. Trust me, they'll never like.
It's just like with the
Sometimes
Mormons.
that's what you have to do though, right?
The Mormons.
You have to go, you have to get through those layers. That's part of the battle.
Well, no, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, but they're using the religious side, right? We have that side too, we're not utilizing it.
Right. So
Yeah.
We have that side more than anybody else, we have that side.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And then
That's what's
why
most likely.
That's what's
to use
mostly.
it.
But the
That's
other
right.
reality behind that is that what we've done is, and this is the basis for all of it, we have adopted their gods and their
That's
religion.
right.
And that is
Yeah,
really,
you can't do it
that is
under-
really the
you
basis
can't
of
do it
it.
under
that.
We have decided to go to a house that's built on sand to try and build our way out of this, and it's not going to work because it's not our connection. So it's failed from the beginning.
And if there are any little, one or two people that get through on it, I mean, they're only getting through just to get other people to get down with that to make that same mistake.
Right.
But they're not gonna let everybody. They're not gonna, call you out on your mistake with only two people. They'll let you go gather around people and everybody saying, yeah, we're a sovereign state now. You know what I mean? The black sovereign state of America or whatever. And
Was the
then
Black
they'd be
Panthers
like,
almost there accomplishing that before all of that
No,
violence and stuff?
man.
No, they did not even.
None of that stuff. They're still chattel.
yeah.
Same status.
Well, no,
Same status.
They policed their own
but their
communities,
approach-
but they weren't.
They had
Right.
someone
Didn't have
that
jurisdiction.
they had somewhat the right approach, but they were in the wrong
The wrong
jurisdiction.
status, yeah.
What they were
That's
doing.
all
Wrong
it is.
status.
They're on the wrong status. What
Yeah,
can
they
you do?
were black. They were calling themselves black still.
And what you have to realize too, I think it was the last part, is that they've also had agents who go into the communities and create these false leads,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Say Black Panther, so you rush off to Black Panther. Muslim group, you rush up. So what they basically do is they're just throwing smoke and mirrors up there, right? And then they're just divide and conquer. It's a basic technique, right?
Yeah. Because they should all be as one. All
That's right. And if we were, it would be done.
Yeah.
Overnight, it would be done.
Done overnight.
Overnight.
Yesterday.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Forgot about the letter. Back to the letter. We ain't even done.
Which one? The one that you read?
The letter of George Washington. The encouragement which your majesty has been pleased generously to give to our commerce with your dominions, and the just and generous measure taken in the case of Captain Proctor make a deep impression on the United States and confirm their respect for and attachment to your imperial majesty. It gives me great pleasure to have the opportunity of assuring your majesty that while I remain at the head of this nation, I shall not cease to promote every measure that may conduce to the friendship and harmony which so happily subsist between your empire and them. And there again, he's making the distinction that he's not even connected to the U.S. He's just playing that role that they gave him, right? To be a spokesperson for the United States, because they don't have their own spokesperson to speak on their behalf. And shall esteem myself happy in every occasion of convincing your majesty
of the sense which in common with the whole nation I entertain the magnanimity, wisdom, and benevolence of your majesty. May the Almighty bless your imperial majesty, our great and magnanimous friend, with his constant guidance and protection. Political and constitutional reconnection. In order to be recognized by the nations of the earth and the nation/government in which you live, and to be acknowledged by all free national beings, one must declare his and her true and free national name and national origin. This activated and dutiable social standing is a major determinant of one's consenting legal, social, and political status within organized government and within society as a whole. Ignorance of this basic obligation to self and to society is not given the benefit of doubt and does not excuse one from the possible and actual negative consequences established by an incorrect and colored status.
Say that last part again.
Ignorance of this basic obligation to self.
Sorry.
Before that?
Yeah, you were talking about the identification of who you were. I think like
I'll read the whole thing again. In order to be recognized by the nations of the earth and the nation/government in which you live, and to be acknowledged by all free national beings, one must declare his and her true and free national name and national origin. This activated and dutiable social standing is a major determinant of one's consenting legal, social, and political status within organized government and within society as a whole. Ignorance of this basic obligation to self and to society is not given the benefit of doubt and does not excuse one from the possible and actual negative consequences established by an incorrect and colored status. The law begins with self. Therefore, a knowledge of self and being oneself is socially and politically indispensable within any orderly civil government.
So I guess that's it right there, saying that if you don't declare who you are and you then pretend that you're a slave, then there's no excuse. And you fall whatever. And they're saying that's the most basic thing. Walking out of your door, if you don't even know who you are, we ain't even giving you you're done.
Yeah, then you just
right?
fall.
That's right. You just fall. And basically, and that's what they've done.
Exactly.
And that's what they've done to us for millennia, or not for years.
Brainwashes is a powerful thing.
That's right.
Straight up.
Right. I'm gonna come. Sorry, I have to leave. I'll come back and join in the next one.
No problem, man. Good to see you.
Good seeing you.
Yeah, you already know, man.
Good seeing you, brother. All right, bro.
What's up, man?
We'll build again.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Any questions, comments?
No, it's all good, bro. It's all good.
What I sort of realized is somewhere in here, I've sort of, I always use these analogies and metaphors. Basically, it's like setting up a citizenship or a sovereignty office, but they've set up a sort of a mirror image to the real government, and then they've been carrying out this fraudulent government. And as long as you go through that door, which is the fraudulent government, you're under their jurisdiction. Right. So as long as you take a right rather than a left, you're part of the whole problem.
Right. Issue of honor. It is the prerogative of all civilized natural beings to honor their mothers and their fathers. Yesterday's theme of the day. In order to claim a rightful inheritance and a birthright upon the earth planet. And it is also primal to right law behavior for Moors not to preoccupy their lives, energies, and culture in pretending to be someone who their forefathers were not. Moors are Asiatics and not Europeans. Why do they continue to transact? And not Europeans.
Go on.
Why do they continue to transact business in European names and think that there is no social, political, legal, or lawful consequences? Moors who have accepted the false teachings and slave-deluding brands which the occupational European slaveholders have forced upon them have been living in violation of this foresaid divine honor principle. If the truth and the light that commands the positive benefits of the true quality of society would apply to the forlorn among us, then the social responsibility of one being in one's own proper person must be taught, preserved, and enforced. It is furthermore stated that it is the civic duty of the natural peoples and the true American citizens to aid in the restoration of the elementary and basic teachings and tenets of civilized order and right law government within the North American territories. An important and socially functional reason that the unconscious Moors of North America are being nationalized and politically taken out of the Negro black status is for them to publicly declare and claim their rightful heir status, and to assist in bringing them back into the constitutional fold of government. Moors cannot obtain justice, equality, and political stability under the Negro and black brand tags, which are a fraud. The masked practice of being artificially clothed with European surnames legally compounds the fraud. Such a low state of affairs constitutes a wardship status politically and characterizes those in subjugation as chattel or corporate property. The social and political redeeming act of nationalization, as commanded by Noble Drew Ali, establishes for the record that one, being more Moroccan, is now conscious of one's national and sovereign connection to this said government, and thus the relative civic duties and responsibilities accompanying their restored proper status. Conscious Moors return to the literary traditions of their ancient forefathers, eagerly go back to studying and working to become more useful members of society. With the enforcement of these ancient civilization principles, one is therefore and thereby made worthy of those benefits which a just society has to offer. An in full life status cannot be recognized outside of the honor of one's mother and fathers. The laws which govern nations and nationals upon the earth planet emanates from the nations. The common and harmonious political relationships which are in evidence and embodied within national and international law indicates a generally uniform and universal consciousness about the true nature and origin of humane and organized government. Thusly, written constitutions are constructed in the nature of the anatomical constitutional makeup of the natural being. Universal and knowledgeable agreed understandings about high civilization culture are fundamental to maintaining longevity in civilizations, societies, and fosters peace on earth. Right? So we have to honor our foremothers and forefathers and go back to the state of mind of them.
Well, that's taking on their names as well. Which is
basically taking on their practices.
At this point, we've become someone else's
heirs. Exactly.
And if those heirs decide that we're slaves,
then that's what we are. And we have no say.
And of course they would, because they've got no responsibility to us.
Right. Because remember, once you consent, right? Once I say, here's a, and you say, okay, like that's it.
That's it.
You made your claim.
That's the contract.
Now,
that's the contract.
I have the authority to dissolve that.
That's right.
Because you agreed.
But if I become aware, I can dissolve that.
Right, exactly.
Too, as well.
Right.
But of course, you, at that point, once I've signed, I'm going to be looking to fight fight it because
because the contract that we signed is what makes the law.
Is what makes
that I'm going to hold you to now.
Right.
Because
of course,
you consented.
of course, I'm not going to give that up because you've been feeding my children.
Right. Clothing you and
all that.
Right. About nationality. Nationality is that quality of being a confirmed and participating part of a nation. Nationality. Nationality is that quality of being a confirmed and participating part of a nation. So when people say that they're Nation of Islam, for example, right? That's not a nation.
Of course.
And it's not a nation because they don't confer nationality to anybody.
Right. They don't have land either.
And they don't have land.
But of course, what it is it's the jacket that they pretend
is theirs.
Is theirs.
Those who are not a part of a nation have little or no considerations forwarded them. When nations congress in council and confer to consider the economic and political affairs of the nations, if one is outside of the order of nations, then one is hard-pressed to expect the laws of the families of nations to secure one's rights, or for the citizens of the nations to come to one's aid or to one's service. This can be, and also too with regard to, for the citizens of the nations to come to one's aid or to come to one's service. If we're outside the order of nations, who's gonna come to your aid?
Another thing too,
nobody's gonna come to your aid.
Doing some studying too, you realize slavery has been going on, or slaves have been going on for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So this is nothing new.
Exactly.
So, and everyone's been involved in it. So if you don't get yourself out of that, this is nothing new to anyone. It's not like they're doing anything that's abnormal, right? You're a slave once you don't have a home.
This can be most crucially understood when one is in need due to the negating effects of slavery, forced servitude, and were by deviance placed outside of the constitutional fold of government by the European occupiers, who have branded the Moors as Negroes, blacks, colored, and Ethiopians, etc. It is definitively vital and important that the true birthright status of the people, Moors, be addressed in a more formal and documented political format, and given considerations on a more serious social, political degree and principled level. Thus, the subject matter and issue of permanent character comes into play within the arenas of national, international, and world affairs. The social...
Just the last sentence.
Thus, the subject matter and issue of permanent character comes into play within the arenas of national, international, and world affairs. The social political status and caste position of civiliter mortuus means dead in the eyes of the law. This is the past, present, and existing social and political status as assigned to all persons held under the brands and tags of Negro, black, and colored, etc. The 180-degree opposite social and political status counter to civiliter mortuus is the superior and clear natural, social, political, and legal status of info life. Info life was and is the uncorrupted, normal, and honorable status as held by the ancient forefathers of these same Moors who have been calling themselves what they are not, i.e. Negroes, blacks, colored, etc. In full life is defined in C. Black's Law Dictionary on ancient and modern jurisprudence as continuing in both physical and civil existence, that is, neither actually dead nor civiliter mortuus. Upon this social political reality, and with moral and spiritual considerations, Noble Jew Ali, Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, declared to the Moors, be yourselves. And so we are here today to remind you of that charge which must be fulfilled and is in your own best interest.
Islam.
Islam. Anything else? Any questions, comments? Question? Yeah, you have a question. Go ahead.
What does the star, the thing we mean to star?
What does the star?
The star, not star thing, but that's there.
Yeah. What does it mean?
Yeah.
What's that? What is it? Green star. Right? This point right here, this point, that point, and that point represent the 5 principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. Right? Green is also represented, or this star also represents Venus. Right?
And the red?
The red represents all the blood that was shed, because this red used to be white at one time. It was white before, and then it became red. But also too, like you know when you wear the fezzes, and then you see red ones and black ones and white ones. Who wears white ones? Did you notice?
Yeah.
Who wears white ones? Males or females?
Females.
All right. And what color was this before?
Red.
What was it before? Red.
You said white.
Right? It was white before.
Yeah.
Right? And what color is our fez?
Red.
And what color is this?
Red.
All right. And if it was white, what color fez do you wear? The flag was white. You were white fez because you're a female. So the white flag used to represent women, or the matriarchal society, or the society that was run by females. And then the red represents the male society, right? Or the patriarchal society. Okay? But even though the red represents a patriarchal society, the star represents women, or Venus. So if you go like this, right? Right, there's the head, and there's the 2 arms, and there's the 2 legs. Like this. So the star is also used. You see it?
And what is this one?
Yeah, these inside ones, that everything inside the points constitutes a human body. Right? Everything inside the points. So this is, so head's here, and then under the head you're gonna have the neck, and then you know the shoulders, right? Then you have the arms, and then you have the legs. And then this is the core of the body, or the solar plexus, which is where you get all your energy from in order to be yourself.
So where's the heart?
Right in there.
Right in here, in the core. Right? Anybody else? Some more questions? You got a question, Elias?
Questions this one?
He wants to know when is the trip to Washington?
The trip to Washington. The trip to Washington is in October. October 20th is the actual day of the census drive. And I think it's like 20 hours or something. Maybe less than that.
Less than that.
Yeah. Washington, yeah.
Census drive.
I'm just in school. Okay, you can say it then.
Fine. I was at school, right? My teacher told me like what was my nationality, and I wrote Morish American.
Yeah, and what happened after that?
I love that.
What happened after that?
Huh?
What happened after that?
She didn't say
You didn't say anything. So what does that let you know?
that I am Morish American.
Alright. Give it up. How old are you? For the record, how old are you?
10.
10? What's your name?
Just 10.
Alright. Alright. That's what it is.
You didn't finish that clear.
Oh, you got more?
No,
Just
say
10
his
out
name
as
again.
big.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. Alright. That's what it's about right there. Right?
I'm giving everybody attention.
Alright.
That's what you always do.
Okay. So due process of law. Due process of law in each way, and this is from Grand Sheet Nature's Due Process of Law, Volume 2. Due process of law in each particular case means such an exercise of the powers of the government as the settled maxims of law permit and sanction, and under such safeguards for the protection of individual rights as those maxims prescribe for the class of cases to which one question belongs. They then mean a course of legal proceedings according to those rules and principles which have been established in our systems of jurisprudence for the enforcement and protection of private rights. In such proceedings, to give such proceedings any validity, there must be a tribunal competent by its constitution, that is, by the law of its creation, to pass upon the subject matter of the suit. And if that involves merely a determination of the personal liability of the defendant, he must be brought within its jurisdiction by service of process within that state or his voluntary appearance. Due process of law implies the right of the person affected thereby to be present before the tribunal which pronounces judgment upon the question of life, liberty, or property, and its most comprehensive sense, to be heard by testimony or otherwise, and have the right to controverting by proof every material fact which bears on the question of right in the matter involved. If any question of fact or liability be conclusively presumed against him, this is not due process of law. The essential elements of due process of law are notice and opportunity to be heard and to defend in orderly proceeding adapted to nature of cause, and the guarantee of due process requires that every man have protection of day in court and benefit of general law. A law which hears before it condemns, which proceeds on inquiry and renders judgment only after trial. The Moorish nation, descended from the ancient Moabite nation, are bound by moral covenant to the highest law known to man, and must at all times be of a general and permanent character, living up to our forefathers' ancient and divine creed. We are the true framers of the American Al-Maroc government, with our Moorish flag representing governmental structure flying in these shores for over 50,000 years. We as a clean and pure nation are the true white people and aborigines of the land, which means sovereign lords. And if we ordain this constitution for ourselves and our posterity, it is no more than right that the law be enforced on all others alike. And we are bringing all parties to the law, domestic and foreign. And those who interfere with this new administration of government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens, will be removed from office or put under heavy restriction, because the Prophet Sheikh Sharif Ali is unpleased with the acquiescence of due process of law and the divine constitution and bylaws. And if these above principles are not carried out, starting with the heads of all temples, the worst is underway.
So this is due process involved in anything.
Anything. Due process is a right that we have to be heard, treated fairly, fair trial. You don't know.
That's in any aspect in life.
Anything. Due process is required. Because without due process, then you're basically getting violated. And then if you don't say anything about the violation, then you're left hung up to dry. Right? But there is an obligation that we have.
What book is that you're reading from?
This is Nature's book.
Okay.
40. Yeah, it's 2 books in one. Due Process of Law 1 and Due Process of Law 2. Alright, so there's a writ in here entitled Petition for Failure to Record an Instrument on Demand. So this was when, like now that we know of our position as a sovereign state, right? We have the ability, as we've been doing, to seal our own documents, prepare our own documents, our own nationality cards, etc. Right? At one time, because there's a brother by the name of Samuel Elamin, and he has a website called, I think it's Origins of Masonry or something to that effect, right? And they take trips to the Washington Masonic Museum, George Washington Masonic Museum, and they're saying that, remember when we used to show the Fezes case with all the Fezes in there or whatever? All that stuff they're moving out the museum because the people are becoming knowledgeable to what's going on, right? So just in the case of filing documents, going to the county to record documents and all that, they pretty much dissolved that process. That there's places that you can't even go to the county and file anything on the record because there's no record.
But in essence, what that is because it's been a fraud to begin with.
That too.
They're just
that too.
It's not like they're even doing anything wrong.
Right.
It
Right.
wasn't
They're just dissolving what was fraud.
It wasn't, and therefore probably not holding themselves liable anymore.
Right. Right. And then on top of that too, we're now holding them liable by these writs that we're putting in there. You know, now they have to own up to their position, right? Which is what the petition for failure to record is about. Right? To all men who these present shall come, Notice to agent is notice to principal, and notice to principal is notice to the agent, applicable to all successors and assigns. May the peace and blessings of our Creator God Allah, to whom all praises due, be upon you in your understanding that supreme law and justice may dwell in our land. Due to the alleged change of jurisdiction of the County Recorder's Office from the County Clerk to the Office of the County Clerk, there has been a supreme violation of due process of law. The sovereignty is reserved to the people, and they the sole obligation to elect representatives over themselves. See Article 4, Section 4, United States Constitution. The elected clerk and whomever they deputize hold a de jure constitutional public trust. Due to fact that the counties agreed to be subject to the jurisdiction of the state, of which every state they're claiming to be in became a conflict of interest for their fiduciary duty. This
sorry, can you just read that last county, the county beholden to the...
Due to fact that the counties agreed to be subject to the jurisdiction of the state of whichever state they are claiming to be in, became a conflict of interest for their fiduciary duty. This unconstitutional transition was done in dishonor to defraud its trustees, deceiving them to think that the filing of documents were regulated by state statutes rather than the state constitution. The County Recorder's Office filings includes, but not limited to, the transfer of real estate and other legal documents from the court. However, this office must by common law also include a myriad of documents that may not be specifically listed. Any instrument, affidavit, or notice can be filed on demand with the payment of Federal Reserve notes in lieu of lawful money. That's something also too to consider. When we're using fiat, that.
Oh, that then the reason for that then right there is something, right? Grounds for something, right? The use of these false notes.
Right, so that's what I'm getting at, that when we are using the false notes, refer to it as using the false notes in lieu of lawful money. So we're only using the false notes because there's no lawful money to use. You know, we're only getting their passport because private necessity, they might not let us passport or whatever, so we're going to reserve our rights on it when we use it.
I'm almost saying there could be some grounds for the fact that by not using the lawful currency, something in there breaks that contract too, right? So you haven't really even paid for anything.
Right, yeah.
Whether that I'm saying that might work for them in a sense, but or even for the whole nature of the whole interaction.
Well, the other part
you're
too
supposed
is
to
that
be paying for something, let's say, with lawful money.
Yeah.
You even using lawful money.
Right.
So right there, is not even, that contract hasn't been fulfilled.
That contract hasn't been fulfilled. Right.
But vice versa, when they're asking you for money too.
Right.
Right. That's not even lawful money.
And then, to protect ourselves, we're using it in lieu of lawful money, regardless of whether, just like reserving our rights.
Under duress.
Exactly. I mean, we're just using it because we have no other option but to use it. Right? If no indice exists, then the recorders is required to create such an indice. I know that. See, that's in the dictionary. INDICE. 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 The county recorders is constitutionally and personally liable for the damages sustained by refusing to record such instruments. For example, an affidavit is defined by law, is not pertaining only to real estate. It is a document of the truth for the public record, signed under penalty of perjury. An affidavit is a written declaration under oath with notice to adverse party. Notice of default may not be just a tax default, but a breach of contract or fiduciary duty that has nothing to do with real estate. Liens are filed and recorded against those who fail to perform according to the terms and of their contracts. These instruments and many others are recordable on demand. Failure to do so is constituting fraud. Title 18 USC 241-242. Malfeasance of office, malice, fugitive of fiduciary duty, breach of fiduciary duty, breach of contract, discrimination, deprivation of life, liberty and property, deprivation of right, embezzlement, perjury of oath, misrepresentation, concert of action, obstruction of justice, and by common law, alienable offense. Those in the employment of government who fail to conform to the specific performance of their constitutional republic duties may be liened by their failure to perform, even the forfeiture of their personal property. As a government employee, you took an oath of specific performance relating to the supreme law of the land and the state constitution, as did your superiors. You receive monies from the public trust to perform what is lawful. Any breach of oath, government code, statute, or United States Constitution treaty can be remedied by instituting an Amendment 9 complaint at law in the District Court of the United States and perfecting liens against those violating the law. The only acceptable place for such a lien to be filed is the county recorder's office as required by law. Please also be aware that your failure to record any instrumented presented by Morish Americans is causing the Morish American or the Morish nation loss of life, limb pursuant to happiness. Please be aware that we will forward this letter to the county commissioner and attorney general to notify them of your actions. Your actions appear to us at this point to be done in your individual capacity because it is outside of your discretion and authority to refuse to file such lawful instruments. However, if the county is told of your actions and it ratifies or condones your actions, they will be establishing a policy to violate the supreme law of the land, including but not limited to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787, superseded by the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1836, and enforce the Constitution for the United States of America, in which said defendants shall be bound by oath and affirmation. The said defendant's refusal to provide relief to a petitioner simultaneously barred petitioners from exercising pre-established constitutional and treaty remedies, clearly established inalienable rights protected by the 4th and 5th Amendments of the Constitution for the United States of America, and Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787 to 1836 still in force. Keep in mind, your office has not provided any consideration for the Moorish nation, which is a blatant disregard of the First Amendment of the Free National Constitution and the protections of the religious liberty secured for the rights of the indigenous people of North America and the public in which this nation was founded. You found that word in there? Was it in there? Try this one. INVIC. Sorry.
I wanted you to brace it. Before I let it go, I wanted to feel the weight. I was like, it's heavy. It's heavy, but I don't know how heavy it really is.
That's a man's book, right? Right, got anything that touched there, Mark? You got anything for today?
Sorry, sir.
You got anything for today?
No.
Okay.
You mean in terms of the towel?
Yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, just
No. Like truthfully, I'm all talked out.
yeah, for real.
Really short.
Short? All right. Go ahead. Hold on. One sec. This is not Morris.
That's everything. I'm all talked out.
Sorry, Morris. Your brother gonna read the definition of insight.
Inside or indice?
Indice.
Indice. Alt. Alt. P-A-L-T-P-P-O. People of index.
One sec. We're gonna read that again. Hold on. I just wanna find it. All right. Come again with it.
Indice. All people of index.
All people of index.
EL is the abbreviation of index.
So what does it read?
So if no indice exists, then the recorder is required to create such an indice. The county recorders is constitutionally and personally liable for damages sustained by refusing to record such instruments.
So index is this an index?
So maybe
So,
I guess
a record of
a record of things that are filed.
Things that are filed.
Yeah, I've never seen that word before. Thank you. Just go through some definitions here in this glossary. Abolition, an act by which a thing is extinguished, abrogated, or annihilated, as the abolition of slavery is the destruction of slavery. Acquiescence, contracts, the consent which is impliedly given by one or both parties to a proposition, a clause, a condition, a judgment, or any act whatever. Adjudication in practice, the giving or pronouncing a judgment in a cause or a judgment. Alien, anyone not a citizen of the country in which he or she lives. Anarchy, absence of formal legal order. Also, the social context in which legitimate political authority does not exist. Bill of Particulars, a detailed informal statement of a plaintiff's cause of action or of the defendant's set-off. The Bill of Particulars is an account of the items of the demand and states in what manner they arose. Bureaucracy, organizations that implement government policies. Caste system, divisions in society based on differences of wealth, inherited rank, privilege, profession, or occupation. Citizen, member of a political society who therefore owes allegiance to and is entitled to protection by and from the government. Citizenship, status of being a member of a state who owes allegiance to the government and is entitled to its protection and to political rights.
Is that sovereign?
Sovereignty, ultimate supreme power in a state. In the United States, sovereignty rests with the Section 2 of the Constitution, which states that the Constitution, laws passed by Congress, and treaties of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, binding on the states. Stateless person, one who is not a national or without a nationality. Quasi, Q-U-A-S-I, a Latin word in frequent use in the civil law signifying as if, almost. It marks the resemblance and supposes a little difference between two objects. Rule of law, principle that every member of a society, even a ruler, must follow the law.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So that's what one again?
Rule of law, principle that every member of society, even a ruler, must follow the law. So in the Canadian Constitution Act or whatever, Canada's founded on the rule of law and the belief in God and whatever. The rule of law, principle that every member of society, even a ruler, must follow the law.
What are you connecting that to the Canadian Constitution Act?
Because the Constitution Act says that Canada was founded on the rule of law.
Okay. So the rule of law.
And the rule of law is that every member of society, even the ruler, must follow the law.
But the Constitution Act is a fraud.
Right, yeah.
Too, right?
Right. Yeah. So they kind of escape having to exercise or, perform the rule of law because they're not really lawful in the first place.
Right. Quasi.
Yeah. Right? Quasi rule of law. Nobility. Group of persons having legally recognized titles, usually of a hereditary nature, who compose the aristocracy of a society. Legally recognized titles. Legally recognized titles. Not lawful, but legally.
Does it to the aristocracy again? Or aristocracy?
I don't think so. We're going to have to dictionary that one. No.
Aristocracy.
Aristocracy. Law. Law is generally divided into four principal classes, namely natural law, the law of nations, public law, and private or civil law. When considered in relation to its origin,
Four
classes: natural law, the law of nations, public law, and private or civil law. When considered in relation to its origin, it is statute law or common law. When examined as to its different systems, it is divided into civil law, common law, and canon law. When applied to objects, it is civil, criminal, or penal. It is also divided into natural law and positive law, into written law, lex scripta, and unwritten law, lex non scripta, into law, merchant, martial law, municipal law, and foreign law. When considered as to their duration, laws are immutable and arbitrary or positive. When as their effect, they are prospective and retrospective. These will be separately considered. Law of nature, or natural law, as used by natural rights philosophers, a moral rule discovered by the use of reason, which everyone should obey at all times and places. Jurisprudence, the science of the law. By science here is understood that connection of truths which, is founded on principles either evident in themselves or capable of demonstration. A collection of truths of the same kind, arranged in methodical order. In a more confined sense, jurisprudence is the practical science of giving a wise interpretation to the laws and making a just application of them to all cases as they arise. In this sense, it is the habit of judging the same questions in the same manner, and by this course of judgments forming precedents. You got aristocracy.
Which one do you want? Black's law or?
We hit on both of them.
Okay, Black's law. Fourth edition. A government in which a class of man grows supreme.
Well, if you could talk up a little more? Sorry.
A government in which a class.
Hold on, one second.
A form of government in which is lodged in a council composed of select members or nobles, without a monarch and exclusive of the people. A privileged class of the people, noble and dignitaries, people of wealth and station. And then here, this is Webster. Aristocracy. Government by a small, privileged, hereditary class drawn from the leading families in the states. Democracy, a state so governed, the member of such a governing class, in particular those who bear titles and nobility, even when they no longer control government. And Plato and Aristotle, government by those whose characters best fits them for the task, the best of or most prominent of any class, aristocracy of intellect. Aristotle's best class here.
Thank you. Islam. Any more questions or anything? Topics at hand? More questions? Good? All right. Next week, Sunday, we're gonna be at the Toronto Naturals Hair Show, vending. That's at Garaman Court. Domino's and Eglinton.
Same thing that they had last year?
Yeah. Japanese Cultural Center. Natural Hair Show. Next week. Yeah. Natural Hair Show. I think this is the 6th or 7th.
Will you put it on?
Yeah, yeah.
When is that start?
Next week, Sunday.
Let's see what.
21st or 22nd?
It's the 15th, so
22nd? And that's been going on for a good while. Sister that we know puts it on. So we've been supporting her since we started.
Where? At the Japanese one?
It's Japanese Cultural Center.
Off of Down Mills in Winford.
Center?
Yeah. Don Mills and Winford.
And?
Winford. WYNFORD.
If you're on the DVP coming from the 401, you just get off at Winford and then go west.
Yeah, right.
Actually, is it west?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you go west and then the first
Like
lights.
first street
The
or
first
something.
lights, I think you make all right.
Yes, sis.
Is that you?
That's me.
What is the judgment of Christ of the parties?
What does the what mean?
What?
Judgment of what?
The judge of the parties.
The judge of the what?
Party.
What?
The party. That means the judge.
The judge of the what? To speak of the judge of something?
I don't know. You right? Speak of the judge or something? What translate, little sis?
The party.
The what?
The tribe.
What is that?
That is nobody's private.
The private spark?
No, the private spot. Nobody can go spot.
So the spirit got him right now.
Yeah, you're right. Nobody touches those. Only you.
Right. Any other stuff going on? We got
Right now?
somebody mumble something? Oh, alright. So that's it. Don't forget on Wednesdays. Drop some. Don't forget on Wednesdays. We got the streaming classes / building on Wednesdays, 7 to 9. If you have any questions, yeah, $10. If you have any questions or just want to build or just whatever, Wednesdays we're here, and Sundays we're here, but we're not going to be here next Sunday. Don't forget. You can get the word out on that. Somebody could be here. Yeah. But not everybody's going to be there, so yeah. Well, I won't be here next week Sunday, so whoever is going to hold the fort down next week, whatever, we're here.
Omar doing a special lecture.
Special lecture by Omar. Alright boys, let's close out with the prayer. Five on the left, 2 on the right. God, Father of the universe.
God, Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector. My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. To His holy prophet. Noble Ali. Islam. Peace.